Welcome to book club. We are almost done with our book. We only have a little bit left. We have two more chapters. So we're on chapter 15. It says it's what you do after you get back up that counts. It says experience is not what happens to you. Experience is what you do with what happens to you. And that's Aldous Huxley. You are probably familiar with this quote by President Calvin Coolidge. McDonald's founder Ray Kroc used to quote it. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. Well, I would have to disagree with that statement. Persistence is important, but it isn't the only key to success. I think you need persistence plus something more. It's just like the old saying about boxers: a champion gets up one more time than he gets knocked down. Yet, if that's the only thing he does, he may finally win, but not before getting his brains beaten out. Who wants that? He's much better off if he needs to get up off the canvas only a few times. He does that by figuring out how to knock out his opponent. He didn't play games with success. That's what Milton Bradley did, in a manner of speaking. He figured out what to do so that he wouldn't continue falling down. He started his career at age 20 as a draftsman. That was in 1856. By 1860, he had earned enough money to buy a printing press and go into business for himself as a lithographer. His first great product idea was for a lithograph, that's a hard word to say, lithograph of newly elected President Abraham Lincoln. As soon as he offered the print for sale, the orders flooded in, and he would have kept making money except for one problem. His print was of a clean-shaven Lincoln, but the new president had grown a beard. It nearly ruined Bradley. While he was trying to cope with his first major setback, he decided to try selling something different: a game. When he was a child, his parents had used games as tools to teach him and his siblings. He had a concept for a game he called the checkered game of life, which taught moral values. He designed the game and printed up copies. It was the first parlor game printed in the United States. The game sold well. In fact, as fast as the handmade games could be produced, customers snapped them up. That first year he sold 40,000 copies. So I was like, Aiden, I'm doing a book club right now, okay? I think he's upstairs. I think Daddy's upstairs. Okay, well, he'll come out in a little bit if he's not, okay? Okay, well, he'll come out when he's done. Aiden, like, always wants me or Chris all day long. He is definitely a little baby, mama baby, or I don't know. He's like a mama's boy and a daddy's boy. He just wants his parents. Okay, where am I at? Okay. I don't know. I think I'm at the new section. Okay, the game sold well. In fact, as fast as the handmade games could be produced, customers snapped them up. That first year, he sold 40,000 copies. A new focus and plan. That first success gave Bradley a new direction in life. He turned his attention to producing games and other materials that stimulated the mind and instructed people while entertaining them. Primarily, that meant games. But it wasn't long before he wanted to expand more intentionally into educational resources. A new concept to America had come across the Atlantic Ocean from Germany called kindergarten, and Bradley became very excited by it. Bradley saw the educational potential of kindergarten for children and the potential market for materials to teach them. He wanted to be the first person in America to print kindergarten materials in English. He wanted to produce building blocks, art supplies, and other items. He intended to make kindergarten materials his primary focus. I love him already. I didn't know he did this. But his business associates objected. Because the company was operating in an economic downturn, they believed that focusing such attention in a risky new area might put the company out of business. Bradley was undeterred. He pushed forward with his plan, and ultimately he achieved remarkable success. It took all the faith I could muster, said Bradley, all the belief in the final triumph of kindergarten principles to pull me through those early years of discouragement, when my business associates and other friends and the annual balance sheets of our bookkeeper were all against me. In time, Bradley became one of kindergarten's chief proponents. He produced numerous materials and even published the influential journal Kindergarten Review. He made a difference in the lives of thousands and thousands of children. A plan for after you get back up. Oh, he found his daddy. Maybe you have developed the persistence and resilience to keep getting up when you get knocked down, but you're getting weary of dragging yourself back onto your feet again and again without making any progress. You may be physically and emotionally exhausted. If so, you need to do more than just get back up. What you need is a plan that will help you determine what to do after you've gotten back up. Try using these steps based on the word forward. I feel like I need to write this down. I'm going to have to go back and write it down. Finalize your goal. So the F is for finalize. Finalize your goal. In the last chapter, I wrote about the importance of having purpose and developing a desire. The next step is to settle on a definite goal you want to reach. The boxer in the ring who gets back up has this goal, knocking out his opponent. Milton Bradley had this goal, to produce educational products for kindergarten students. You need to determine what your goal is. Recognize this. The goal shapes the plan shapes the action achieves the results, and the results bring success. Ooh, I feel like I need that on a poster. If you cannot finalize your goal, you won't be able to turn your failures into successes. George Matthew Adams asserts, in this life we get only those things for which we hunt, for which we strive, and for which we are willing to sacrifice. It is better to aim for something you want, even though you miss it, than to get something that you didn't aim to get and which you don't want. If we look long enough for what we want in life, we are almost sure to find it, no matter what that objective may be. I can read that again. It is better to aim for something you want, even though you miss it, than to get something you didn't aim to get and which you don't want. All right, order your plans. The saying is old. It was coined by Benjamin Franklin, but it's true. By failing to prepare, you are preparing to fail. There's no guarantee that what you plan will be carried out in the way you envision it, but if you neglect to plan, your chances of success are very slim. Novelist Victor Hugo believed, he who every morning plans the transactions of the day and follows out that plan carries a thread that will guide him through the labyrinth of the most busy life. But where no plan is laid, where the disposal of time is surrendered merely to the chance of incident, chaos will soon reign. That is undoubtedly why Spanish author Miguel de Cervantes wrote, the man who is prepared has his battle half fought. Risk failing by taking action. Planning alone won't bring success. The other half of the battle is taking action. Conrad Hilton said, success seems to be connected with action. Successful people keep moving. Moving forward on a plan and actually doing it always involves risk. Oh, here's Sarah. And that's good because nothing of value is achieved without risk. You have to put yourself on the line to reach the finish line. Larry Osborne speaks of risk. Highly successful leaders ignore conventional wisdom and take chances. Their stories inevitably include a defining moment or key decision when they took a significant risk and thereby experienced a breakthrough. Welcome mistakes. By now, you realize that mistakes are not to be avoided, but embraced. Hey, Sarah.
Hello.
We're just talking about embracing mistakes. It says they are signals that you're moving into new territory, breaking new ground, making progress. As the old states, he who makes no mistakes never makes anything. If you are still having a hard time with this concept, I recommend that you go back and review the previous chapters. The only way you will be able to fail forward is to accept mistakes as a part of your life, learn from them, and improve. Advance based on your character. Every time you face mistakes and attempt to move forward in spite of them is a test of character. There always comes a time when giving up is easier than standing up, when giving in looks more attractive than digging in. And in those moments, character may be the only thing you have to draw on to keep you going. Championship winning NBA coach Pat Riley said, "There comes a moment that defines winning from losing. The true warrior understands and seizes the moment by giving an effort so intensive and so intuitive that it could be called one from the heart. After you've been knocked down and you've had the will to get back up, the intelligence to plan your comeback, and the courage to take action, know this. You will experience one of those defining moments, and it will define you as an achiever or a quitter. Prepare for that moment and know that it's coming, and you increase your chances for winning your way through it." That gets me right here. All right, reevaluate your progress continually. By fighting through the difficult times and overcoming mistakes, you have the opportunity to learn and adjust. William Knudsen joked, "Experience is knowing a lot of things you shouldn't do." People don't like to examine their mistakes, yet that's what it takes to achieve. Katie Payne, president of the Leahy Media Link, says, "Business culture teaches us never to admit our mistakes, but to bury them instead, or to blame somebody else. And most personnel and project reviews don't really do much to uncover mistakes. If we wait until we've finished a project to conduct a postmortem, people will forget the mistake, or they'll build up a grudge against a coworker. Either way, we lose a learning opportunity." Develop new strategies to succeed. Lester Thurlow points out that a competitive world has two possibilities for you. You can lose, or if you want to win, you can change. Once you develop a plan and put it into action, you're not finished. In fact, if you want to succeed, you're never finished. Success is in the journey, the continual process. And no matter how hard you work, you will not create the perfect plan or execute it without error. You will never get to the point that you no longer make mistakes, that you no longer fail, but that's okay. Personal finance author and lecturer Robert Kiyosaki acknowledges, "In my own life, I've noticed that winning usually follows losing." One of Kiyosaki's favorite stories comes from the teachings of his friend Mike's dad when he was growing up. He said that the man whom he called Rich Dad loved Texas and Texans. Rich Dad used to say, "If you really want to learn the attitude of how to handle risk, losing, and failure, go to San Antonio and visit the Alamo." Woo! The Alamo is a great story of brave people who chose to fight, knowing there was no hope of success against overwhelming odds. They chose to die instead of surrendering. It's an inspiring story worthy of study. Nonetheless, it's still a tragic military defeat. They got their butts kicked, a failure, if you will. They lost. So, how do Texans handle failure? They still shout, "Remember the Alamo." Kiyosaki adds, "Every time he was afraid of making a mistake or losing money, he told his story. Rich Dad knew that failure would only make him stronger and smarter. It gave him the courage to cross the line when others backed out. He said, 'That's why I like Texans so much. They took a great failure and turned it into a tourist destination that makes them millions.'" It's so funny. The Alamo, like when you go downtown, you're expecting this like
That's so funny.
but it's like this tiny little thing in the middle of like these big old, it's like it doesn't look that big. It's very cool and inspiring, but it's, I don't know, smaller than you think. The story's big though. Okay, failures are milestones on the success journey. Each time you plan, risk, fail, reevaluate, and adjust, you have another opportunity to begin again, only better than the last time. As 67-year-old Thomas Edison said as his laboratory burned to the ground, "Thank goodness all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start fresh again." I love that attitude. A jewel of the Pacific. Starting over usually isn't easy, to say the least, but it sure can bring incredible results. I was reminded of that on a trip I took to Asia in the fall of 1999. For 10 days, a team of my leaders and I traveled to India, Hong Kong, Australia, Singapore, and the Philippines to teach leadership. My favorite stop on that trip was Singapore. It's incredible. It is the most modern country in the world. We took a tour of the city of Singapore, and our guide, Susanna Fu, told us many things about her country. Its gross domestic product in 1998 was 84 billion, measured in US dollars, and it has a per capita gross national product of $22,800. No, I don't know. Yeah, I guess that is 22,800. It has like an extra comma. It's like throwing me off. Ninth highest in the world. And Singapore accomplishes this in a country of only 238 square miles. That's about 1/5 the size of Rhode Island. That's crazy. Have you ever seen Crazy Rich Asians? Love that movie. You need to watch that movie. It's about Singapore. I mean, I don't think it's a true story, but it's really good, anyways. Could be, I guess. All right, knockdown. Singapore started out as part of the Sumatran Sriwijaya, I don't know how to say that word, Srivijaya Kingdom, but became part of the British Empire in 1826. For more than a century, it remained among Britain's holdings, interrupted only by a time of Japanese occupation during World War II. After the war, as the British granted independence to more and more members of their former empire, the people of Singapore began to think about their own independence. The British were skeptical. Singapore had no natural resources and no experience in government. The people desired independence, but culturally they still possessed a colonial mindset. And on top of that, racial prejudice was rampant. In 1959, Singapore was granted its independence, but the country didn't do well. That's when the people decided that their best hope was to attach themselves to Malaysia, which they did in 1963. But the Malaysians didn't get along well with the people of Singapore, and after 2 years, Malaysia severed ties with Singapore. The country's leader, Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew, felt that the country had been cast adrift with few prospects and little hope. There was only one thing to do: work themselves out of their horrible situation, moving forward with a plan. Lee wrestled with the problem until he had a plan. He was a young leader, only 42 years old, and unlike most of his countrymen, he was educated. He knew that a turnaround was possible, but it would take a generation to do it. His goal was to create first world conditions in a third world country, and this is how he decided to do it. Number one, bring in industry. His first objective was to bring in industries that would employ many low skilled workers so that the people would have jobs. Number two, create public housing. He wanted to improve the people's quality of living and to inspire them. They would move into better housing, but they would pay for it. Number three, send people to school. The only way for the country to improve was for the people to improve themselves. He would make education affordable for everyone. Number four, set up a banking system. The goal was nothing short of making Singapore the financial center of Asia. Number five, encourage international travel. Singapore would become a business and tourist destination with a world-class airport. Lee's goal was lofty and his plan ambitious. It would take utter determination to achieve what he dreamed, but even then, he would need help in accomplishing it. He turned to the United Nations for assistance, and though the organization was willing to help, things didn't go smoothly at first. Dr. Albert Winsemius, an industrial and economic advisor from the UN, visited the country and said it was bewildering. There were strikes about nothing, there was a riot every other day and everywhere. My first impression was anything but hopeful. But Lee and the people of Singapore persevered. First, they received hundreds of millions of dollars in loans from the World Bank and the countries of England and Japan. Next, they brought in experts from around the world to help them, carefully selecting representatives from countries who led their fields. Japan and Germany were technical advisors to set up factories. Sweden and Holland, experts on banking and financing. Israel, army advisors. New Zealand and Australia were Air Force and naval advisors. Then they brought in 1,200 companies from the United States and Japan, including General Electric, IBM, Hewlett Packard, Philips, Sony, Mitsubishi, Caterpillar, Texas Instruments, Mobil Oil, and others. Singapore's story is her story. As our guide, Susanna Fu, told us about her country, she fought back the tears. She had been one of the struggling, uneducated people that the country had helped to make a better life. As a teenager in the 1960s, she had dropped out of high school, but as the country got on track, so did she. She went back to night school and improved herself. Today, in her 50s, she understands the incredible distance she and her country have traveled. She has seen the city of Singapore go from a land of swamp and scrub to a flourishing international city. And she has seen the people go from ignorant and helpless to a rugged, disciplined group of achievers. Singapore continues to change. The people continue to improve, and they focus a lot of their intention on giving something back. We are involved in helping Bosnia, Zimbabwe, Turkey, Vietnam, East Timor, and Kuwait, says Susanna. It's our turn to give back, and because we understand how great the need is, we are willing to go wherever the UN asks us to go. I'm not sure when I will get back to Singapore, but as I left, I realized that I would not forget Susanna Fu or her beautiful city. Because of all the countries and cities I've ever been, no place better exemplified what it means to fail forward. So, your 15th step in failing forward, get up, get over it, and get going. Undoubtedly, some great task lies ahead of you. Maybe you suspect that accomplishing it is the key to your purpose, but you've been afraid to tackle it. Perhaps you're worried that you will not be able to overcome the failure that could result from attempting it. Plan to do it. Don't jump into it frivolously. If you've tried and failed at it once already, then you probably wouldn't be frivolous. Get back up on your feet and use the strategy contained in this chapter to move forward. So here's the word forward, right? F, finalize your goal. O, order your plans. R, risk failing by taking action. W, welcome mistakes. A, advance based on your character. R, reevaluate your progress continually. And D, develop new strategies to succeed. If you're willing to stay determined, work according to a plan, and keep getting up when you get knocked down, you will be able to achieve your goals and someday your dreams. Sorry, I need to drink water. Okay, so they're just re-summarizing the 15 steps so far. Steps to failing forward. Number 1, realize there's one major difference between average people and achieving people. Number 2, learn a new definition of failure. Number 3, remove the you from failure. Number 4, take action and reduce your fear. Number 5, change your response to failure by accepting responsibility. Sorry, I get scam calls way too often. You guys get scam calls all day long? So annoying. Okay. Don't let the failure from outside get inside you. Say goodbye to yesterday. Change yourself and your world changes. Get over yourself and start giving yourself. Find the benefit in every bad experience. If at first you do succeed, try something harder. Learn from a bad experience and make it a good experience. Work on the weakness that weakens you. Understand there's not much difference between failure and success. Get up, get over it, and get going. So tomorrow, the last chapter is Now You're Ready to Fail Forward. And that's the last one. So we need to decide on what our next book is going to be. We have one more day of this one. It's a good one. It's a good one. Thanks for listening. For anyone watching the recording.